Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Song, and on behalf of the Los Angeles Public Library, welcome and thank you for joining us today for Business Plan Essentials. This workshop is part of a series of programs we partner with SCORE to celebrate Small Business Month. SCORE is the nation's largest network of volunteer, expert business mentors, and is dedicated to helping small businesses get off the ground, grow, and achieve their goals. SCORE is a nonprofit organization and a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Our presenter today is Ms. Connie Sparks. Connie's professional and financing career spans over 20 years, helping business owners and managers build transformation and financing strategies to meet the demands of their market and customers. Her efforts to reach the small business community have been recognized by higher education institutions, associations, and corporate America. Most recently, she was honored by the San Fernando Valley Business Journal Women's Council Business Owner of the Year Award in 2018. She is specialized in capital development, business planning, business modeling, cash flow planning, business management, and SWOT analysis. Now I will hand it off to Connie.
For that warm introduction, and welcome everyone. As Michelle said, my name is Connie Sparks, and I am one of the instructors for the LA SCORE's office. And I want to welcome you to today's business plan essentials for today's business owners. And so here I'm going to give you an overview of what is required to develop a effective business plan. Now, there are a lot of business plan templates and a lot of books out there on business plans. My class is structured a little bit more differently because I believe that it's important for you as the developer of this document, live document, that it is developed with your passion, with real insight, and it is structured in a more efficient way or manner, especially if you're going to use it for financing. And, also as I go through the presentation, if you are planning on using the business plan for financing, I will give you some guidance into or some insight into what lenders look for when they are reviewing a business plan. All right. And I do believe everyone will be put on mute for the moment. And if you have any questions, all questions will be taken towards the end of the presentation. So here I want to start off with the common mistakes that people make when preparing a business plan. And so this is important because over my career, I've read a lot of business plans and I've helped develop a lot of business plans. And so I'm always trying to share experiences with those that are new to preparing a business plan so that you don't make the same mistakes. So these are some of the most common mistakes that I have run across throughout the course of my career. And the first one I have here is preparing a business plan too long. If you are planning on using the business plan for financing, then you want to keep it under 25 pages. So 12 to 25 pages would be sufficient. If it's for your own edification and all of the research background information is not as important to you, then you can, you don't have to include that, right? So now you're looking at between 10 to 15 pages. Now, ideally, it takes a business plan the time it takes to develop a business plan is usually between 80 hours to 120 hours. And so through my process, I really try to help eliminate a lot of that time by going through all the sections of the business plan and what's required for each of those sections. The other objective here is to provide you with information so that you are not repurposing your information. Like I said, I've read a lot of business plans and I see where multiple sections include the same information. It's just repeating itself. So I want to try to eliminate that redundancy. The other thing here that I wanted to touch on is you want to make sure that you include your competitors. And I will go over a section about, how to complete a competitive analysis, so to speak. And I will also give you guys some resources that, I think will be very helpful in you finding all of the proper information that you'll need to help you complete your business plan. And you want to make sure that you have reasonable expectations. And when I refer to reasonable expectations, both from a growth perspective and a financial perspective. Now, don't get me wrong, I believe in thinking big, but you also have to be realistic. If you're just starting out and you have no customers, your product is new to the market, but yet you are creating financials that or financial projections that indicates you're going to or you're expecting to generate, let's say, $350,000 by year one. But let's say you're a barbershop and you just open up your doors and you really you have no clients. So that would not be realistic. So again, it's the research that's really going to help you be more effective in, in terms of the information that you collect and how you develop your business plan. So you want to be very realistic, and the research is going to help you achieve that. You want to also make sure that your marketing strategy is very clear and concise. And so, especially for financing, because a lender, when they look at your marketing section, this is going to tell them how you're going to make money and then how you're going to grow the business. So this is really a very important section of your business plan. So for financing, it should be very clear and creative, and we'll talk more about that shortly. Make sure you include support research information, right? So if you're conducting your research, wherever you find that information, you want to make sure to cite it in your business plan. Because when someone reads your business plan, in particular a lender, oftentimes they will go to the links or the sources just to verify and confirm the information that you have included, and just to make sure that you're not just putting information in there and it's not true. So you always want to cite your information. And then when I refer to lack of emotions, um, in my experience working with lenders, and I always like to ask questions, what do they look for in a business plan? What do they look for in a qualified borrower and a qualified business, right? And so, with regards to the business plan, one of the things that I hear across the board, both from private investors as well as your traditional lenders, is that when they read a business plan, they do not like to see a boilerplate template business plan. They want to see a plan that has your passion, your emotions, your feelings. They want to feel you, they want to be able to see your passion through your words. And so even if you decide to hire someone to prepare your business plan, you want to make sure that you have a voice in that. You have, you're providing content, with your own words, your thoughts, and so that it's not reading like a boilerplate, because oftentimes if that person who's preparing the business plan, if they're not familiar with your industry, they will, typically pull information that makes the plan look as if it is a template. And so you want to avoid that. So make sure you have a voice in the business plan if you're going to source it to someone else to prepare for you. And your business plan should be very clear to the reader, right? And so you want to make sure that when you are writing, you're not using a lot of jargon. You want to use your industry language, but just be mindful of any, special jargon that is used within the industry. And you also have to remember that from a lender perspective, they're not familiar with your language. And so you have to keep it down to a layman's term. In fact, what from feedback that I receive from lenders, that they would like to, an ideal business plan for them would be a plan where if you were to give it to a seventh grader, that they would be able to read it, understand it, and then be able to read off, kind of like read off or describe your business model. And so really that's how simple the business plan should be in terms of language. So don't use a lot of jargon. And the other thing I want to, touch on while I'm here is about preparing the business plan, because this is one area that a lot of people, um, really don't put a lot of thought into. But your business plan is a live document and it is a professional document. So it should be prepared as such. So, what I like to, propose to clients, when you complete your business plan, you want to have it spiral bound. Always have 3 copies so that if a lender requests a copy or a supplier requests a copy, and then you always have one on hand, you want to make sure that you have those additional copies available. But then to also in packaging the business plan, right? So with packaging, excuse me, your cover page should be on a semi-gloss cardstock paper. If you are product-based or service, it's always good to have a really nice cover page. So I will put a picture of the type of business that you have. Excuse me, guys, I'm dealing with allergies here. But you want to include a picture of the type of business you have, where so it's more like descriptive. And then you want to, of course, include your logo, your company name, and then like your tagline or your brand's purpose statement at the bottom, right? So you really want to make it vivid. And then on the inserts, you want to use a bright white presentation paper. The presentation paper is a smooth sheet of paper and is very vivid. And so you can tell the difference between a good quality presentation paper and a standard white paper. And so this presentation paper, it just really makes the document stand out. The words are very vivid and clear, and it just looks very professional. And from a content perspective or formatting perspective, I would recommend that you use a 11 size font. And font styles or typeset, I would recommend either Times Roman, Calibri, Arial, or Garmin. So any one of those would be sufficient. And for spacing, I would recommend using either a 1.15 or a 1.5. Do not double space your sentences. So you want to make sure 1.5 or 1.15. So either of those would be sufficient. And then the last thing I want to touch on here regarding formatting and content, you want to, instead of saying when you are you know describing yourself or the owner, use principal or founder or co-founder if if they're partners. And then another thing is to be mindful of not to use me, my, or I. It should be we, us, or ours. Okay. So you're always building your business plan from the perspective of a team, right? And not so much as a solopreneur. So always, keep that in mind. I see that a lot when I'm reading business plans as well. All right. So now let's move on to preparing the business plan. So these are your most common sections of a business plan. So for today's purpose, I'm sharing with you the most simplest structure within a business plan. There are dozens of business plan templates out there, and there's no wrong template. And so no matter what template you get, or what software you use, all the sections are the same. The titles may be different, but the information that are required is the same, right? So what I walk you through today, no matter what business plan template you use, it will all be relevant. So you have your executive summary, your company summary, a product summary, your marketing strategy, operational plan, your management plan, a financial strategy, and then your appendices. So because of time, I will only give you an overview of each of these areas. And also keep in mind with regards to your appendix, you want to make sure that this is where you put all your supplemental information into. So you're not going to include or insert your supplemental information in the sections of the business plan, because I've seen people try and slip that in there. They create a 20-page business plan, but they have included their research information or supplemental information in between their in their sections to make it reach that 20 mark 20 page mark. But then when you take it out, it really only comes out to about 15 or 16. So just be mindful of that. Always put your supplemental information behind or in your appendix. So how do you start a business plan? I can always tell when someone has prepared a business plan backwards or properly. And so in preparing a business plan, you always, always, always want to have a goal in mind. If you try to prepare a business plan just going by section, you're not going to have a conclusive business plan. It's not going to be an effective business plan because you're just completing in each section without a strategy. And so I always like to share with clients, start with your vision statement, right? So that first page or the second page, it should be your vision statement, one paragraph outlining where you see the business in 3 years. And, you're thinking about um, growth, you're thinking about new products, you're thinking about partnerships, how many clients or contracts would you like to have? You want to be very specific when you're preparing your vision statement, because this is what's going to be the foundation for the remaining sections of the business plan that you're going to complete. And you always have to keep that vision in the forefront of your mind as you are developing your business plan. So the executive summary is the first section, and although it is the first section, it is the very last section that you're going to complete. Why? Because, I have a list of questions here, and these are the questions that you want to, address as you are completing your executive summary. And so I'm hoping that you're able to at least take a screenshot of these pages or the slides so that you can keep this in mind. So again, although it's the first section, it's going to be the last section. So for example, when you're going to describe your products, right? You're going to go into more details in your product summary section. So versus starting here and then have to figure out what content, how you're going to describe your products, you would complete the product summary section and then take a part of the summary section for your products, and then you're going to impart that here in your executive summary. So that's why the executive summary is always suggested that you complete last, so that you are not recreating the wheel, right? And then also keep in mind your executive summary should not be more than 3 pages. So 1 to 3 pages would be sufficient. However, an ideal executive summary would be 3 pages, and I'll share with you because there's some additional information that you will want to include, but you want to be sure to really highlight in your executive summary here, what issue are you addressing? Why is there an issue? Where's the issue? And then what's your solution? So in essence, you are writing a few paragraphs, just really outlining why you are going into the business that you are going into, right? So that's really what these four questions are asking you. And then when you are describing your customers, you want to make sure to be, again, just a few sentences. Don't go into a lot of details because you're going to go into more details later on in your business plan. The executive summary is really designed to be that sales pitch for you. So when someone else is going to read the business plan, you want them to, just kind of get an idea of what the business plan is going to include and what it's about. And then following that, that would give them an idea if they want to move forward or not. Okay. So your executive summary, although it is the first section, it is a very important section. Now, if you're going to use it for financing, I would recommend that you include your ask, right? So how much capital are you looking for? How are you going to use it? And then how are you going to repay it? From a lending perspective, that is always important. If you're not going to use it for financing, then you don't have to include that statement. So for an example, um, our company our company is seeking $250,000 to purchase new equipment for marketing to also help with some tenant improvements, right? So that's, just a few sentences. That's all you need. You don't have to go into a whole lot of details. But then when you're describing your profitability expectations, you want to, write something to the tune of like, uh, our company anticipates earning 300,000 year one, increasing our margins by 30% year three, right? So it's always year one and then year three. So year two, you don't have to, you don't do one, two, and three. You're just going to go year one and then year three. And so again, this is where you want to make sure that your numbers are correct. So ideally, what would be the ideal way to start your business plan is to create your financial projections first. And the reason why I say that is because even though you have the vision, so your vision and your financials should be in alignment. And so with your financial projections, in essence, you're saying, okay, this is how we're going to generate that $300,000 by year three, right? So this is what we're going to do. This is going to be our strategy. And so if you create your financials first, then that will also help you in building or strengthening the business plan and how you strategically um, write up each of your sections, right? Because it's going to support why or how you're going to earn that amount of revenue by year one through year three. Other parts of your executive summary will include your keys to success. So your keys to success are your key drivers, and I always recommend including at least 5 to 6 key drivers. These are the drivers that will attract new customers, will generate revenue. Like, for example, your packaging could be attractive to your customers, especially if you're doing like something green, right? Another form of driver could be your team. You have a seasoned team of executives or technicians, specialists. Your years of service could also be a good driver because, of course, people always want to work with experienced or seasoned, businesses. Then you also may want to consider the products themselves. So really your key drivers, you're really thinking about what's gonna what's gonna generate revenue, what's gonna, create loyalty amongst our customers. So that's how you're thinking about your key drivers. And then on the mission statement, your mission statement is the foundation of your business model. And so your mission statement should not be more than 45 words, 3 sentences. And and I'm always, regarding the mission statement, people always get stumbled because they have it's hard to put all of what you do and how you're going to help and service your customers in 45 words and 3 sentences, right? So these are the bullets, the information that you're going to include: the nature of your business, your company goal, customer benefits, your target market, and how you're going to deliver these services to your customers. So all of these pieces of information needs to be included in your mission statement, right? And so um, couple of ways that you can, develop your mission statement. Well, a few rather. So one is you can look at, other companies that are in similar business as you and look at their mission statements, see how they align and how they tie into their products and services, how they tie into the customer segments that they are, serving. And then another way you can do this is through the buy-in or the input of your um, followers, your social media, followers or your data list. So you can use a service like questionpro.com or surveymonkey.com, and then you can um, create a survey, right? And put your mission statement in the you can create the box, put it in your mission statement, and then ask for feedback. Ask people, say, hey, I'm developing my new business, and this is my mission statement, my proposed mission statement, and I would really like your feedback. And then you send it out to your followers, and you also email it out to your data list and ask for feedback. And you'll be surprised at the level of support that you will get from from your social media followers, and from your family and friends, because the mission statement is very, very important. Again, this is your business model, the foundation of your business model. So it is very important. Now, here are a couple of examples of a mission statement. And as you see here, a mission statement is designed to be very vague, not too specific. Keep it very simple. A mission statement can also be a one-liner, right? So it doesn't have to be 3 sentences. It's up to 3 sentences. It can be that one-liner, as long as it covers the these 5 points here. Then you're okay. But another way you can do this is draft it. Draft your mission statement, right? So think of it as a 30-second elevator pitch, right? So I like to record my clients and say, okay, give me your 30-second elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do? And then we record it, and then we take that and then we break it down into a more formal version of a mission statement, because that's really your mission statement, is your 30-second elevator pitch. When someone asks you, what do you do, or what is your business model, they're just asking for your mission statement. But on the formal side, you want to avoid including anything like cost, pricing. You don't want to be too specific on the type of products you have, and you don't want to be too specific with regards to your customers, with your audience. And so one of the things that you can do, like versus saying women, or being specific, you can use the term community, customers, or clients, right? So that you're not being too specific. And one of the reasons why it's always recommended that you don't be too specific in your mission statement is because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you will end up losing business, right? Because if someone goes to your website, let's say you have a unisex products, but you really are focused on women, and in your mission statement it speaks to that, that, you're really targeting women, but you have unisex products. And if I'm a man and I come to the website and I see your mission statement and see that really all of your language is geared towards women, then you're going to lose a client, although you do have unisex products. So you have to be very careful in terms of how, the specificity that you use with your mission statement. So be very, very vague, but very clear. All right, so now let's talk about your goals and objectives. So, um, when you come to the part in your executive summary where you're writing out your the goals and objectives, and so in essence you are now breaking down your vision statement. So for year one, what are the things that you want to achieve? Year two, what are the things that you want to achieve? And then year three. And then following that, for each goal, you want to make sure that you have objectives. And the objectives are how you plan to achieve your goals. So the goals are what you want to achieve, and the objectives are how you plan to achieve those goals. All right. And then you want to, if you're just starting out, you want to be mindful to really focus year one on the development side, right? So developing your business model, um, securing financing, finding a location, looking for suppliers, securing suppliers, finding your equipment. So really year one, focus on the development side. Year two, focus on that launch. And then year three, focus on the growth. All right. So you have your start, your run, and then your growth. So those are the three phases, that in terms of structuring your business plan, and developing your business, I always recommend using those, that model, phase one, phase two, and phase three. All right. Now let's jump into section two, your company summary. So with your company summary, here you are going to really delve into the history of the company, the history of the owners, right? And so this is where now you're going to describe the business. Your company summary section should not be more than 2 pages. Really, ideally, it should be 1 page. It typically would only go over to 2 pages if you have multiple partners, but if it's just you, then it should be no more than 1 page. And so in your company summary, you're describing where the business will be located, what is the legal structure of the business, and then you want to write one sentence why you decided to go with that particular structure, right? So if you decide to be let's say an LLC, why did you decide to go in LLC? Is it because you are a partnership or because of the liability protection that you're seeking for your personal assets? So whatever that reason is, you want to be sure to explain that in, one sentence. You're also going to include you're going to give a brief description of your customers, who are your customers, and why you're targeting these particular customer segments. You're also going to give a brief history of the business. Now, if you are just starting out, you don't have history. So you have to use the history of your career to describe this. But then you can also describe, um, you know, kind of give an overview about the industry, so throughout your career, maybe you've worked in the industry, and these are some of the successes that you have had throughout the industry. You also want to talk about, let's say, for example, if you worked for a company and um, within the industry, and you help them increase their profits by, let's say 20% or even 5%, whatever that number may be. That's huge. You want to include that. I will tell you, the company summary is another section that lenders really pay close attention to. And the reason why is because this is telling them that, one, you're qualified to run the business, and that two, you have the capacity to run and grow the business. So really, this is a very important um, section of the business plan that lenders really do pay attention to. Now, you're also going to include the current stage or the life cycle of the business, right? So you have these three, you know, life cycles or phases. Where are you? Are you in the beginning stage? Are you in the second phase where now you're ready to launch the business? So where are you? So you just want to give, a sentence or two describing the life cycle, the stage that you're in. And then for the past performance and key achievements, again, if you are just starting out, you may not have that. But if you are already in business, then you want to give as much information as you can about the successes, the outcomes of your of your business career. And then you want to describe your industry. Is it a growing industry? Is it a dormant industry? So you're going to write a paragraph about the current state of your industry. Now, this is where the research comes into play. So you would have to do some research to complete this section or this particular question. Um, and I would cite where you found that information. So, for example, our industry is currently a $13 billion industry and growing. There are It has evolved from 2017. Um, it was uh, 30 million in 2015. But then by 2021, 2020, it has grown to a $30 billion industry. So you just give a little synopsis here describing your industry, but always remember to cite that information. And, as I mentioned, I am going to give you guys some resources here shortly when I get to the marketing section. And then lastly, on the company ownership. So this is about you. And if you have multiple partners, then you're going to write out one paragraph for each partner. And you're describing your education, um, your career history in the industry whether you've been a business owner or you've been a worker bee, whatever that may be. You're just going to give a little synopsis of your resume. Then you're also going to include, any credentials you may have, so the more information that you can provide about really to substantiate or demonstrate why you are qualified to be a business owner, to run the business, and to grow the business. So this is a very, very key section in your business plan. Now let's move on to the startup projections. So following your company summary, you're going to include a one pager, and you're going to list your all of the things that you need all of the resources that you need to start the business, right? And so you want to be mindful to only include your one-time cost items so you're not going to include reoccurring costs like payroll or um, uh, monthly subscriptions. You don't include anything like that. These are all just your one-time costs of what you need to get the business started. You need inventory, you need um, shelving, right? Computers, software. So you just make a list of everything that you need, and then you want to include the cost associated with that. And this is going to help you identify exactly how much capital you will need to get the business started. Now, from a financing perspective, you're going to develop your startup projection, and then when you develop your profit and loss, your 3-year profit and loss, and your income forecast, you're going to expand on that because you're going to have to increase that margin by 20%. And so I'll describe that more when I get to the financial side of the business plan. But again, your starter projection chart should just be very simple. What you need, one-time costs only, and then the cost. Now let's jump into the product summary. So the product summary, this is where you can really get into the meat and gravy of your products, right? So, for me, this is like a passionate part because I can sit and write all day long about the services that I offer and all the wonderful things about it. So this is where you get that opportunity to really highlight your products, right? So I'm just going to kind of walk you through some bullets of information that you want to include here. And so let's start with how to describe your current products and then the future of your products, right? So you're going to talk about, or you can list, if you have 5 products, you can bullet them and then list all 5 of your products and give a, 1 or 2 sentences, per product, or you can write it in a narrative form. And then you will also create another part of that describing your future products. And so one of the things that I always like to share with clients, when you are thinking about growth, think about growing from both a horizontal and a vertical perspective, right? So from a horizontal perspective, um, you are adding brands, right? So let's say, for example, if you are an ice cream shop and you have, you may have ice cream and then you have yogurt, but then you say, okay, by year 2, you want to grow and you want to add tea and coffee. So those are new product lines, new brands that you're going to incorporate or add to your product line. That's growing horizontally. Now growing vertically, right? That means you're taking that one brand of ice cream and you may have 5 flavors, but now you're going to add an additional 5 flavors. So that means you're growing vertically. And so you always want to think in that manner. When you're thinking about growth, you think about it from that perspective, horizontally and vertically. Um, Lenders love the 2 growth patterns. So, just keep that in mind. And then you have, what gives your products a clear competitive advantage. So you're always thinking about what makes my product different. It doesn't, not necessarily unique, but different, right? And so all it takes is one little tweak that will make your product different, right? And so it could be, let's say, for example, if you are a seamstress and you make these really cool dresses, and you use a particular fabric or hem, different from, other dressmakers. That's going to be your differentiator. And so you always have to find that differentiator with your product versus a competitor's product always. And then you want to look at what are the features and benefits of your products, right? And so um, the benefits are, how will your customers benefit from using your product or services? So really think about what benefits do your product offer. And, an exercise that I like to do with business owners when we're really, trying to figure out what are those differentiating factors, or what are the value propositions, right? So I would have them write a list of their products and services. And then from there, they would have to list what's special about that product. What incentives does this product offer? So that really, and it can be in keywords. It doesn't have to necessarily um, be in narrative form, or sentences. You can just use keywords, but you want to be able to identify the value propositions of your products, because that's going to also help you identify that differentiating factor as well. And then you want to think about what are the environmental and or social impacts that your product or service have on your community. So, for example, if you are into net zero emissions, uh, recycling, um, then you use a lot of natural products. You like to reuse products, and so with that, what's the impact to the environment? What's the impact to your community? So you always looking for that environmental and or social implication, always. And you want to just write one paragraph describing what those implications are. Another thing you want to include as a part of your product summary, what is the um, life cycle, the stage, or should I say, of your product's life cycle? Meaning, if you are a manufacturer, where are you? Are you in the research phase? Have you completed your research, right? Are you, have you completed your prototype? Have you conducted your in-house and customer testing? Or is it market ready? Um, are you ready for an upgrade? So whatever life cycle you're at, with your product, you want to write just a few sentences describing the life cycle, the current life cycle, stage or of life cycle, stage of the product's life cycle that you are currently in. Okay. So again, your product summary can go into a page and a half, but you don't have to go into a lot of details, just enough to give your reader a better understanding about your products, but also to help you gain a better understanding of your products as well. Now let's jump into the product features and benefits. So this is part of the exercise of trying to identify what are the benefits and the features of your products, trying to find that, that value proposition. And so when you're doing the product feature and benefits exercise, think about your features. Features are the characteristics of the product, right? So for example, with this water bottle here, right? So you have this water bottle. What are the characteristics of this water bottle? It has rigids, which makes it easy to grab, to hold on to. It has a plastic cap that I can easily twist. So these are just it's plastic. Um, it has a label that just, really kind of lists the ingredients and whatnot, the benefits of the water. So these are the characteristics of this water bottle. Now, what are the benefits, right? If you're thirsty, it, quenches your thirst. It helps you stay hydrated. So you think about both aspects, the characteristics and the benefits of that product. Okay. Now on to marketing. So this is your section 4. So under the marketing section, this is a section that requires a lot of research, and this is really going to be like the bulk of your business plan. So on the this will typically come out to about 5 pages with all of the content that's going to be required. And this is where I'm going to share with you guys some resources here for you to, there we go, for you to find the information that you're going to need. So for your market research strategy and implementation section, there are several areas in which you're going to need to conduct research. And the first one I have here is the economy. So you always want to know what is the current state of the economy? How are these changes that are taking place within the economy affecting both you, the business, personally, so direct, and then your customers indirectly? And you always have to keep your customers in mind, especially when you're doing your economic research and your market research, because, you know, as a part of that, when you're writing up that narrative about the economy and the changes that are taking place, um, and how it's impacting your business, then you're thinking about, okay, how is it impacting my customers, right? So let's say, for example, if you have a catering company and you have to, drive to your customers' venues or locations, you have to deliver food, right? And so that means if the gas prices are going up, then that means that that's going to bite into your profit margins. So how are you going to counter that? Naturally, it would be to increase your prices to reflect the increase on the gas prices, right? So then how is that going to impact your customers? Well, from research, it shows that usually when there is a market shift in terms of price, increases on pricing, on rent, on food, then businesses tend to increase their prices to adjust and reflect the change in the market. But then it also shows that um, there is always a good chance that a business, when they increase their prices, they will lose about anywhere from 5 to 10% of their customer base because of that price increase. And so we have to take that into consideration. So what I always like to suggest is when you're thinking about that scenario, think about how can you counter that, right? What can you do to retain that customer? So if you are a caterer and you have to, go up on your prices because of gas, right? And but you've had this loyal customer who has every event they call you, and you've been like that exclusive caterer for them. But now you've had to increase your pricing, even though it's, probably by a couple of $100, it may be outside of their budget. So naturally, they're going to go and find a catering service that's going to be a little less than what you're offering. So you have to come up with a creative way to retain that customer, right? So that's a part of this market research. So as you're writing that up, and I will tell you, as a part of that strategic thinking and thinking strategically about how to develop your business plan, lenders love to see strategy. So if when you're developing your market research section and when you're identifying the challenges in the market, and then following that, you're talking about how you're going to counter that, to make sure that you retain your customers. That's a plus. I trust me. Like I said, I talk to a lot of lenders, and we talk about business plans, and I always want to know what it is that they look for. What do underwriters look for, so that this can be a positive experience that I can share with other business owners. So just keep that in mind as you're developing this section. So a resource I want to give you to do research on the economy, kind of where the economy is and how it's impacting different markets. One is LAED is in David, C is in Charlie.com. That's LAEDC.com. So that's a great source that you can look into to find information on the current state of the economy and how it is impacting various industries. Another one is B as in boy, E as in Edward, A as in Apple, so BEA.gov. This is another good source for you to do economic research. Now, also as you're doing your research, I want you to look at three things. I want you to look at the market trend. product trend, and then growth opportunities. So every industry has a 5 to 7 year trend, right? So, and you need to know where the current trend is and then go back 2 years. And then, so for example, we're in 2021. So you would start with 2020. Where was your industry? Where was it in 2019? And then where was it in 2018? And then that's going to help you when, in terms of projecting your financials, it's going to help you in knowing where you are currently going to be positioned for 2022 and 2023. If you need to project in an upward trend or if you need to project in a flat trend. So you really want to get to know what was the past 3 years. What were the past 3 years, the historical data for those 2019, 2020, 2019, and 2018. Okay. And then on the growth opportunities, you always look at when you're doing your research, um, you say, okay, if I'm looking at my association, right, and they're giving you a lot of information about market trends, new laws and regulations that are going to impact your company, new entrants into the market. Think about how can you capitalize on some of these changes, right? So you're always looking for growth opportunities and always look 3 years out and how you can capitalize on these changes, right? And so one of the other things that you can do as you're doing the research in talking about market growth, um, if you're doing your research and you discover that, okay, in 3 years, the FDA is going to require a certain certification or training, class that every supplemental manufacturer have to abide by, right? And it may cost, you know, let's say $5,000, for this training and for this certification. Well, if you know this in advance, that this is going to be a requirement from a marketing perspective, you can really use this to your benefit because you can say, all right, if I know that this is going to happen in 3 years, one, you can start preparing from a financial perspective, setting monies aside so that when they announce the training, availability, then you can start preparing to take the classes. But then also, you can also let your customers know that, hey, this is a new requirement that's coming out and that your company will soon be certified. That's really going to make you look good from a marketing perspective. So always look for these opportunities that you can capitalize on. Now let's talk about potential barriers. Potential barriers are, of course, um, the competition, financing could be a barrier, but also look at things like IP, right? Intellectual properties. Because if you want to, let's say, sell a certain product, but that product requires, or software, and it requires a license. And let's say if that license costs $10,000 a year for you to, use that particular software or product, then that can be a huge barrier. So then you have to think about, okay, what are my alternatives? How can I, what do I need to do so that I can raise that $10,000? Because otherwise, if that barrier if that is a barrier to entry into that market to get your business started, then it is going to take you that much longer to get your business going. So you really, really want to take into consideration what are these potential barriers. You want to identify them, and then you want to, write up a strategy how you're going to address these barriers. Other things that you want to take into consideration for potential barriers are um, things like alternative products, right? Substitutes. Substitutes are huge barriers because these are the alternatives to your product. So, for example, if you are a dressmaker and you've had this loyal base of following, and they have always purchased these, dresses from you because they really like how you make them. They like the fabric, they like the quality. And so they were totally okay with spending hundreds of dollars for this dress. But now the market has changed, right? There's they've been impacted by the increase of the gas, of the food, and of other sectors that that they may rely on. But and they are a family of five. And so now this woman, she has to make a decision. Am I going to still be able to spend $200 for this dress that I used to go buy every summer? I buy 5 or 6 of them. Can I do that now? No, right? So that is a barrier. And the reason why it's a barrier is because it's going to impact your business, right? And then so you have to think about, again, how are you going to retain that customer, right? To keep her from going to another competitor. But also her alternative is to either learn to make a dress similar to that or find something comparable, maybe not of the same quality, same fabric, but maybe the same style, and something that she can use. So, you really have to go deep when you're doing your research and you think about these things. And regardless if you're going to look for finance, use it for financing or not, just for your own edification, being able to understand and identify these things are really going to help you in how you build your business model and how you grow your company. Now, on your target market and your competition, um, I'm going to pause on those two because I'm actually going to go a little bit deeper into the target market and the competition in just a second. But this here, I really kind of did the homework for you in terms of creating this section. So this is a slide that you want to take a snapshot of because, again, I've did the homework for you, meaning that I've listed key questions here. And if you can answer these questions in 2 to 3 sentences, you will have that entire, the first part of the marketing analysis section completed already by addressing these questions in 2 to 3 sentences, right? If you can go, if you want to go deeper into, what are the products, what products are in demand, how are you tapping into new markets? You absolutely can, but just keep in mind, at minimum 2 to 3 sentences, and you will have that the marketing analysis section completed. Now let's go on to the market segmentation, the target market. So who are your customers, right? And so for this part here, you're thinking about, are you targeting a single segmentation? Are you targeting a, specific market, or are you covering all markets, right? Are you doing mass market, right? Meaning that's everyone. So you're not men or a man or woman or children. You're not specific. But then before you get there, I mean, after you've identified that, then you have to think about the demographic side. So what are the demographics? And so I like to kind of use this exercise of identifying or just doing like a DNA analysis, right? So who's your ideal customer and why? Right? So women ages 25 to 40 who are professionals, who earn a income of, let's say, $75,000 a year. She likes to travel. She really pays attention to her personal appearance. She's very professional. So you want to get real detail about who that customer is. And because that's really going to help you in identifying the best audience for your product or service. So once you've identified this is our product, this is our service, these are our features and our benefits. Now, who best benefit from this particular product? You're a dressmaker. You're selling dresses at $200 a pop. You have quality fabric, right? And so naturally, that's going to be a professional woman someone who really likes to take care or takes pride in her appearance. And it's going to be someone who can afford, to pay $200 a pop for a dress. So these are the kinds of things that you want to consider when you are thinking about who's your ideal customer. Now you can have more than one customer segment. Yeah, as I mentioned, either single, specific, or full market. But even under a single segmentation, so let's say, for example, you're targeting women, right? But there may be three types of women. You may have the professional woman, you have the everyday woman, and then you may have the mom, the stay-at-home moms, right? So that's three markets under that one single segmentation. So again, be very specific. Market one, market two, and then market three, and then their description. Now, where do you find these customers, right? So you to really effectively market your products and to capture and reach the target market that you're going after, you have to know where they are. So I'm going to give you a couple of resources here for you to find, do market research or customer segment research. So the first one I want to give you is zip, Z-I-P, who.com, and that's zipwho.com and zipcode.org. Those are two different ones, zipcode.org and zipwho.com. If you go to these sites, you can put in either the zip code or the city, and then it's going to give you a snapshot of each of those, of the population. And it'll tell you how many women, how many men, it'll tell you how many families, it'll give you the median household income, it'll tell you how many schools they have around, it'll give you the, you know, specs about the area. It'll tell you how many businesses, the types of businesses. So it gives you a snapshot. But that also helps you identify where you should be marketing your products to. So if you're trying to figure out where should we be spending our marketing dollars, this is the type of research that you want to do, right? So you have, and when you're doing the research, and you're looking at the population, always look for a location, a city or county, or state that has at least 20% population of the demographic you're targeting. If it's under that, it may not be worth spending your marketing dollars in that location because your revenue, um, or just say your profit margin may not be huge if it's under that 20%. So keep that into consideration. Now for the competitive analysis, your competitive comparison. Who are you competing with? How are you competing with them? What products and services, how do they compare with these competitors? Where are they located? So, and then when were they established? And then you're also looking at their pricing structure. And so you're going to answer all of these questions. So that's going to be the first part of that competitive section in your business plan. And then following that, what I would do is I would list each of the competitors, and I would include a thumbnail. If their product base includes a thumbnail of the product that they, similar to yours, that you're going to do your comparison with. And then I would write, just a couple of sentences about that product, when the company was started, where they're located, and then what their pricing structure is. And so when and you don't have to do a lot, I would just do maybe three competitors and one or two products, at most, that you want to compare. And then that's going to develop your competitive comparison or your competitive analysis section. And so where do you find information about your competitors? I'm going to give you two sources. One is going to be Manta, MANTA, and size up, SIZ as in zebra, EUP.com. I like Manta.com for two purposes. One, because it's a great source to, really kind of identify who are your competitors. You can filter the search by, you would put in the kind of products that you have and then the location, and then it's going to populate a list. And then you're going to take that list and you're going to look for competitors that have been in business. If you're a startup, it should be 1 to 3 years. If you've been in business more than 3 years, it should be 5 or plus years. But if you're just starting up, don't look at a competitor who's been in business 5 or 10 years, because then they're, trying to compare their profile to what you're doing is going to be like comparing apples to oranges. So 1 to 3 years for startups and 5 plus years for existing businesses, more longer than 3 years. The other thing about Manta that I like is that if you are B2B, this allows you to generate a free, yes, free leads list. You will get the owner's name, the telephone number. Sometimes you may get, like I may get an email address. It will tell you about their products. When they started, you'll get their website address. You will also learn about their financial position, right? And so why is that important? Because if you're just starting up and you're trying to figure out how much should I be earning in my first 3 years, right? So if you look at a competitor who's, been in business 1 to 3 years, and it's going to tell you that their annual revenue is, 85,000 or 150,000, you will find that medium number between the three competitors. And then you're going to, figure out a comfortable number, a realistic but comfortable number for you, which may be 65,000 instead of 80,000 for year one. And then for the preceding years, year two, if you're service based, you should mark up, or your estimated growth margin should be about 6%, 6 to 10%. And if you're product based, it would be 10 to 15%. And if you are technology or healthcare, that is typically, or in restaurant, that's typically anywhere from 30 to 60%. Again, just depending on what space you're in. But that's where the research will come in and help you really get to understand those, the numbers and things like that. So Manta.com is one great source. And then Size Up is a great source. It also gives you competitive data, but it also, what I particularly like to use it for, is because it allows me to really understand what my market share is and what my competitors' market share is. So when you use Size Up, it'll give you a map, just kind of identifying the competitors within, I believe it's like 10 to 25 mile radius of where you are. And then you will click on it and it'll tell you that this competitor has, 10% of the market share, 15% of the market share. And then it'll tell you what your market share is based on the information that you plug in. And then that will give you an idea, but always look at the competitor that has the highest market share, because that means that competitor is doing something right, right? And so you really want to get to know, what is it that they're doing right, that they have the bulk of the market share. Look at their marketing, look at their website, pay attention to the language that they use, the content, the colors that they use. So you really want to get to know that competitor whom has the highest market share. And then you figure out, okay, what do we need to do to get there to capture some of that market share? So again, you're thinking about this from a strategic perspective, right? Um, and then also you want to make sure to include a competitive analysis. So your competitive analysis is just a simple chart and you don't only have one competitor here, but ideally you would have three competitors, and then your business. And then you're just going to compare. You make a list of the different you know, features or elements of your product that you want to compare with your competitors. And then you're just going to write, a sentence or a few keywords, but you have to be very realistic here. I've read a lot of business plans, and when I have, the customers, my clients develop a competitive analysis, I always see where, they just really highlight the worst parts of their competitors. Well, that's not being fair to you or to your business, because if you're only highlighting the bad parts of the business, then you're shorting yourself. Because from a strategic marketing perspective, if you are working on your marketing campaign or new features, but when you go back and you look at your competitive analysis chart and you see that, oh, they have just the worst customer service, um, their pricing is too high, or their products are shipped from China, you know, you're cheating yourself, because you have to think about, okay, yes, they have high pricing, but based on the demographic that we're targeting, it is in alignment with the market rate, right, for what our customers are really looking. So really, they're not high, right? So just be very truthful here when you're completing your competitive analysis. And then you want to be able to identify their strengths and their weaknesses. And how do you do that? By first Googling them. And when you Google your competitors, you always want to look at the review sites that they, populate on, like Yelp or, um, Trav search, so when you plug in the names, the research, I mean, if they have any reviews, the review sites will pop up. Look at the reviews, and you want to look at 5 negative and positive things that people are saying about the areas in which you are using to compare. And that's going to give you an indicator of what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. And use their weaknesses as your way of creating a competitive advantage. So for example, if you're reading a lot about, just horrible customer service, from a marketing perspective, when you're putting together your marketing strategy and campaign, you really want to highlight, how you value your customers, how um, you go above and beyond, or how you take great pride in servicing your customers. So you find out what their weaknesses are and use that as one of your advantage, your competitive advantages, as part of your marketing strategy. For your strategy and implementation section, this is more about your brand awareness, right? So answer these, questions here. You should take a quick snapshot of this, and you address these questions, 2 to 3 sentences, and you will have your strategy and implementation section completed. And same here now. So you have, this is the strategy section, right? So when you are, really kind of laying out your strategy or your approach, in terms for your marketing, I have 2 pages that I'm going to show you here where I have really laid out the groundwork for you. And just using this process, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to try and help carve out at least 80 hours of work time on the business plan, and I'm doing so by providing you with leading questions that you will complete. And then once you complete those questions, the work is done, right? And so this, by also using this process, is helping to reduce the redundancy of information or content that you would include in other sections. So that's the other reason why I created lead questions, to help you in preparing your business plan so that you don't have that redundancy. But you want to make sure that you want to include, when you talk about, what do I want out of my marketing campaign? Is it brand awareness? Is it to generate a database to increase your revenue? whatever that may be. So you really want to think about, from that perspective, what is it that you really want out of your marketing campaign? So you just go through this list, answer those questions, and then you will have a very, a really nice strategic section here. And this is section part two of the previous slide I just showed you. So again, you answer these questions in 2 to 3 sentences. You will have this all taken care of, and that whole section will be completed, right? But also make sure, like this last question I have here, have I positioned my company and its management team as resources for media outlets? Meaning that, okay, what's going to be your PR strategy? How are you going to um, what resources in terms of media outlets are you going to use to help promote your the launch of your product or the launch of your business? So again, so answer all of these questions, and you'll be in a very good shape. And the next slide here that I want to show you is just a sample promotional strategy. So when you're thinking about how you're going to promote the business, right? So you just kind of outline, if you're going to use advertising, if you're going to use social media, a mobile app, then you will write what medium you're going to use or what channel you're going to use. And then following that, you would include a couple of sentences on the expected outcome of using that particular channel, right? So if you're going to use advertising, okay, we'll be developing our core positioning message, right? And then what is that message? And then what is the expected outcome from that, using that message? And so, it could be 4 channels, you may have 6 channels, but you want to really highlight each of them, and then just give a short description of how that, what you expect to the outcome to be from using each of those um, channels. Now onto the sales strategy. Um, like before, um, you know, answer these questions. Your sales strategy is really, how are you going to sell your product? You're right. So you're really tapping into the value proposition section here. You're describing those benefits that I talked about earlier in your features and benefits section under product summary. And then you're just now, okay, how are you going to deliver those services? How are you going to get the services to your customers? What's going to be your pricing structure? Are you going to have a flat structure where it's just, one cost, or are you going to have a tier pricing structure, right? So whatever your pricing structure is, you want to also make sure to, you can even include it in a chart, or you can bullet it, and then why you chose that specific structure. And then you want to also make sure that you include a marketing budget and your milestone worksheet. So your marketing budget is separate from your financials, right? So this is, once you've identified what channels you're going to use for your marketing, then you're going to associate a cost to that. So you first have to decide, okay, are we going to have a budget of $1,000 a month, or 500 a month, or 2,000, whatever that number may be. And then you're going to include what channels you're going to use to help you reach that strategic marketing goal with that budget. Now, your milestone worksheet, this can be 1 or 2 sheets, and it's you're listing the task that you want to that you have to work on. For example, create a marketing plan, right? When are you going to start it? When do you plan on completing it? And then who's going to manage it? Another one may be secure financing. When are you going to start searching for financing? When do you plan on securing that financing? And then who's going to be responsible for that? So you're going to create a milestone worksheet that should be included, and that milestone worksheet would cover the whole gamut of the business plan of everything that you need to do. So if you were to go back and look at your goals and objectives section, okay, what goals did you outline there? Then you're going to transfer those goals, the milestones, the tasks for those goals into your milestone worksheet, and then that's going to help you keep track of all of what you have achieved or the work that you need to, the remaining work that needs to be done, but it really starts to keep you in line and keeps you accountable. All right, and then for the operational plan, this is, a half page to a page where you're just really touching on how the products are going to be produced, quality control, where the products are going to be developed, how they're going to be developed, your inventory control. You want to give a little brief description about your facility, describe your personnel, always list about at least 3 suppliers that's going to be supplying you with product. And then also, of course, technology, any technologies that you're going to use throughout the business. On the management plan here, I'm not going to go through all of these for time's sake, but I do recommend including an organizational chart. Your organizational chart is not just about where you are now, but you think about where you're going to be in 3 years, all of the positions that you're going to need, all of the experts that you're going to need. So it doesn't have to necessarily be an internal structure. You can include any external sources that you're going to use. For example, if you're going to hire or outsource your marketing, right? So you're going to you just list marketing, marketing director or marketing company as a part of your organizational structure, because they are a support system for you. And then for your management team, you always want to include a brief description, 1 paragraph of each of your management team. This is not personnel; these are only the your team that's going to help make the day-to-day decisions in the business. And your management plan should not be more than a page. I always recommend considering a professional advisory support team, and these are just individuals that are providing services to the company, that's helping supporting the company, whether it's an attorney, accountant, insurance person, banker, bookkeeper. You want to always have that include your professional service team as well. And then on your personnel plan, how many employees you plan on hiring or you need or you currently have, what are the number of hours of work they will work, and then who will manage them. So this is just, 1 to 2 paragraphs. And then lastly, the financial plan. This is the last section of the business plan. And if you have multiple partners, so any partners that own more than 19% of the business from a financing perspective, they too have to provide some of the same documents that you would have to provide for the loan. So for your personal financial statement, you can go to sba.gov and you can download their Form 413. That is it is a PDF, a fillable PDF form that you can complete. And this is simply where you're listing all of your personal assets and liabilities. You also include a income forecast. It's actually 3 years income forecast. So year 1, year 2, and year 3. Then you're going to also need a 3-year profit and loss statement. And also keep in mind when you're doing your financial projections, year 1 should be month to month. Year 2 and 3 should be summary. So you don't have to, spread out month to month for year 2 and 3, only year 1. And then for your financial assumptions are just a narrative explaining how you derived at the numbers for your balance sheet, for your income forecast, and for your profit and loss statements. Then, of course, your balance sheet is about the business, and this helps to identify, yes, your assets and your liabilities, but also your company's net worth. And then the source and use table is really, this is how you are describing how the funds are going to be used. So if you are applying for a loan for $150,000, then your source and use table, which lists all of the current resources you have, like if you did a home, a HELOC, or you're going to use some personal financing, but then the remaining part of what you need, that $150,000, you're just going to lay out by categories, all of the different, um, different, you know, inventory equipment that you need by category, and it should always be dollar for dollar. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes, my presentation for the essentials of business plan writing. And now I believe Michelle will open it up for questions.
Thank you very much, Connie. It was a very thorough and informative workshop. Many of our patrons have asked to get help with their business plan, and I think today's session will be very helpful to them. We will give a bit time for the audience to ask questions in the chat. In the meantime, can you tell us a little bit about SCORE, how people can connect to SCORE, and your volunteer work with them?
So SCORE currently has about 365 chapters nationwide. So we are a partner or subsidiary of the Small Business Administration, as you mentioned earlier. And so this is an organization where all of our resources, our services are free. So you can call SCORE, or you can go to scorela.org, and you can see all of the advisors. You can register to become a client. You will be interviewed and paired with an advisor who will then assist you in whether it's developing a business plan, starting your business, writing a marketing plan, helping with developing a website, whatever support you need. SCORE, we do have advisors that can assist you with that. And we offer a lot of trainings that are very valuable for small businesses that really taps on in every aspect of a business.
Okay, it looks like we don't have any questions coming in, so we will just end the session here. If you are viewing it later and have questions, you can always reach us at lapl.org. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.